everyone. Welcome to ManageEngine Firewall Analyzer's free training, part 1. Let's start with a quick introduction of myself. Hi everyone, I'm Shweta Suresh, a subject matter expert in enterprise security management, and I will be a presenter for today. And along with me, there are an amazing set of panelists. So at any point of the webinar, if you have any questions, please ask using the Q&A option, and they will be answering them. Let's have a look at today's agenda. First, we will have an introduction where we will discuss a typical network infrastructure and why firewalls are essential to network security. Then we'll address a key question: why should a security admin use Firewall Analyzer? From there, we'll cover how to pull the rules and configurations from your firewall device into Firewall Analyzer. After fetching these rules, we'll explore Firewall Analyzer's capabilities, including rule management, configuration monitoring, and finally, compliance and audit reporting. So, as shown on the screen, we have a typical network infrastructure consisting of a router, WAN, LAN, and multiple endpoint devices that are connected to the WAN and LAN networks. Additionally, we also have an on-premise server like the Active Directory server, which manages access to various network resources. So at the heart of all of this is the firewall, which acts as a gatekeeper. So hackers can break into any of these devices, especially firewalls, because they are the core of any network security strategy. Once a hacker breaches the firewall, they can access your entire infrastructure. Today, our focus is specifically on firewalls and how Firewall Analyzer can enhance their management. Now, let's address a critical question. What makes firewalls vulnerable, and why use Firewall Analyzer? The problem lies in these following aspects: firewall misconfigurations, especially those that are already known but are not fixed. Outdated firewall rules, these become easy target for hackers to exploit. So this makes firewall monitoring and threat intelligence a top priority that has to be done regularly. And now network security admins are always in a battle with hackers. So to win, you need a proactive approach that will combine monitoring with rapid response and recovery. Lastly, regulatory mandates. Not only they ensure compliance, but also cover common security loopholes. So now let's have a look at ManageEngine's Firewall Analyzer. So Firewall Analyzer is a policy management and configuration reporting tool that helps with firewall rule management, configuration and monitoring backup, log analysis, alarm management, and compliance management. Now that you've seen a brief of Firewall Analyzer, let's jump into how to fetch firewall rules and configurations. The first step is to configure your firewall device and to send syslogs to the default listener port, which is the UDP port 1514. So once these logs are received, you can analyze them and also manage alerts using Firewall Analyzer. And for the step 2, it involves creating a credential profile for the firewall device. So this will give you access to detailed reports. So for the first step and the second step, we'll cover this in depth during our next session on October 24th. But today, this session is going to focus on the third one, which involves fetching the firewall rules and configurations, adding the device to the system, and generating reports for rule management, configuration monitoring, and compliance. So now you can fetch firewall rules and configurations in two ways. So the first method is by using CLI or API protocols. And the second one is by directly uploading a rule file or a configuration file to Firewall Analyzer. So in the first method, API or CLI fetching, this is available to certain firewall vendors, and the list of the supported vendors will be shared with you at the end of the session. Or you can always find those lists on our website. So on this screen, to the right, you can see an example of adding device information using the API of a firewall and the Firewall Analyzer UI on the left. So now let's take a look at this example in the product UI. So for which we'll go to the Firewall Analyzer UI, settings, and we'll go to Firewall Server. So here we go to credentials, and you can see a list of all the device rules that have been listed here. So to add a new one, you will have to click on add. So here you will select a device and you can choose a fetch option. It can either be an API, CLI, or a file option. So here if I'm choosing CLI, and then we'll have to give the details like the protocol, IP address, and the login and password for security reasons. Once all this data has been given, we validate this. So once the validation is successful, the credentials will be added to the firewall analyzer. So this is for API and CLI protocols. And for the second method, in the same window, we'll choose the file option. So here you can either import the rule or a configuration file. So what is a rule file is basically it is a simple text file where each rule is listed in a specific order. So you can manually export the configuration and the rule file from your device into Firewall Analyzer. So once you have these files, upload them to Firewall Analyzer, and then once the validation is successful, you will add the device to the system. And now going back to the presentation. So lastly, we have one more option through which we can add devices to Firewall Analyzer. So this one does not use any sort of syslogs. So this only requires your device's IP address, and your device name. So let me show you this in the working. So for this, instead of Firewall Server, we go to Discovery and add device manually. So here you enter the IP address and give your device a name. And if you wish to use features like rule management and compliance report, just check this option and you will need to provide the device credentials and login details for security. Finally, you can click on validate to add the device to Firewall Analyzer. So these are the three methods to add a device to Firewall Analyzer. So once these firewall rules and configurations are fetched, you can access three key reports. So the first one is a rule management report, the configuration management report, and the compliance and audit reports. So we'll explore these reports in greater detail through use cases in the next part of the session on October 24th. So now let's see how to put Firewall Analyzer to work in a real life scenario. Let's assume that we have a new security admin who's named Jim, who's working for a company, and there have been a lot of network security issues reported in that company. So the company has asked Jim to do the following. So they want him to optimize the firewall's policies and rules, monitor the changes made to the firewall's configuration, and schedule periodic configuration backups, and finally submit a detailed compliance and security audit report. But in this following task, Jim faces few challenges. So the first task for Jim is to optimize the firewall policies. To do this, Jim faces these following challenges. So first thing, Jim is new to the company and the company is old, meaning there are at least 1,000 rules for him to review. And he has to review each rule manually due to lack of visibility. There are many duplicate and unused rules. Also, more than one security admin has written these rules, which means the process is complicated, making the rules highly unoptimized. So to add to that, any new rule that Jim is going to add might negatively affect the existing rule set. But doing all of this manually will take a lot of time and effort, increasing the chance of human error. So now let's see how Jim can use Firewall Analyzer to overcome these challenges. So let's look at rule management feature of Firewall Analyzer, which can help Jim actually. So the first feature under rule management is the policy overview. The policy overview report provides visibility into all the rules that have been written on the firewall. You can filter these rules according to allowed rules or denied rules, inbound or outbound rules, inactive rules, logging disabled rules, and overly permissive rules. You can also download and analyze the list of rules. With this feature, Jim can gain clear visibility into the existing set of rules across all of his firewalls. So let me show this to you in the working. So to access this feature, simply go to Rule Management and click on Overview. So once you select the firewall device, in this case it is a FortiGate firewall, you can see all the rules that are classified, like the total rules, allowed rules, denied rules, etc. If Jim wants more visibility, he can click on any rule classification and understand how each rule is configured. So these classifications include their individual metrics, providing Jim with clear visibility into the entire rule set. And if Jim wants to download this information in an online format, he can choose either a PDF, an XLS file, or a CV file, or he can have the report sent to him via email. So now that Jim has solved the visibility issue, the next feature under rule management is policy optimization. So this is how policy optimization can help him. Since multiple security admins wrote the rules and they haven't been reviewed in a long time, there are many anomalies, overly permissive rules affecting the firewall's performance. With Firewall Analyzer, Jim can rectify these anomalies, reduce overly permissive rules, and fine-tune the existing rule set. So, Firewall Analyzer can identify the following rule anomalies. It can identify a shadow anomaly, redundancy anomaly, generalization, correlation, non-anomaly, or a grouping. So let me give you a detailed example of these anomalies. Yes. So on this screen, you can see the detailed example of these anomalies. So we will share this presentation with you after this training, so you can have a close and a clear picture of this. So now let me take you to the product UI to show this in the working. So to access policy optimization under rule management, go to optimization. And here you can choose a specific device, in this case, FortiGate. And in the product UI, you can view these anomalies in the pie chart and its corresponding list. So to have a detailed view of any particular anomaly, just click and you can see the underlying data. Here, Jim can have access to necessary details like source, destination, interface details, action, and description. So with that, Jim can exactly know where the anomaly is and what has to be done for it. And the very next feature we have is the rule suggestion. So this feature helps Jim by generating suggestions for overly permissive rules. So by reviewing these suggestions, Jim can take appropriate action to mitigate overly permissive rules, which might be a security risk. And the next one, we have the policy fine-tuning. So this allows Jim to fine-tune specific rules based on the insights from actual traffic, and this is for a specified period of time. So you can choose the time frame as per your requirements. And the next feature we have is objects usage. So this feature provides an overview of network and service objects used by the firewalls based on the syslogs. So to see the detailed reports on what are the most used objects or the least used objects, just click on the objects and you will be taken to this underlying data. And just click on the graph to have an understanding of the data in detail. So here you can see the top rules or top IP addresses which have been used the most. Similarly, for the least used objects, most used service objects, and unused network and service objects. The last one we have here are the duplicate objects. So these usually will slow down a firewall, but using this duplicate objects report feature, Jim can identify and fix such issues. So all these features, all these reports you have seen, you can either like have it in an offline format in a PDF version or have this report sent to you via email. So now going back to the presentation, we have the rule reorder feature. So again, as we discussed earlier, with multiple admins have written the rules and they have not been optimally arranged. So for example, if a frequently used rule is positioned far down in the list, it will slow down the firewall's processing. So let me explain this to you with an example. So we go to reorder feature. Yes. So for this FortiGate firewall, so we have a rule name that is 21, which has been positioned in the 23rd position. So what Firewall Analyzer is suggesting is, if we move from this particular rule from 23rd to the first position, then we'll have an performance improvement of 100%. So this is the reorder report. It will suggest changes to move such rules to improve performance. And you can also see the position of rules before it was rearranged in the complete changes tab. So finally, we have the cleanup report. This will help Jim identify unused rules, unused objects, unassigned interfaces, and unassigned objects. So these unused rules could be exploited by skilled hackers. With the rule cleanup report, Jim can deactivate unused rules, ensuring that they will not have any impact on the internet, on the network, and he can also safely remove them if that is necessary. So taking you back to the presentation, we just saw the cleanup report. So now we have the rule impact analysis, which is one of the important features of rule management. So the question here is, why do we need a rule impact analysis? So before you add any rule, it is difficult for us to understand the impact it will have on our entire existing rule set, because firewall rules are not typically independent from each other. And in fact, most rules have a very direct impact on the set of other rules. So given this case, we must take utmost caution before adding a new rule to the existing firewall's rule sets, because a simple mistake can trigger a massive security loop that can either allow a malicious traffic to sneak in, or it can also block a legitimate traffic. Rule impact analysis, you can easily determine if the proposed new rule is going to negatively impact your existing rule set or not. So let's look at how Firewall Analyzer rule impact analysis can be configured. So for this, under rule management, we go to impact. So I'll also show you a sample impact analysis report. So to access impact reports, simply click on impact analysis. You can give a rule name. Choose a position, source, destination, and all other information that is on the screen. And here, in case you have any blacklisted IPs, you can list them here. But if the list is long, you can simply make it into a file and browse and select it. Once you've given all the prerequisite data, you can click on generate report. So once a report has been generated, you will get something like this one. So here you can see that the report has been split into several sections. So the first section denotes the anomaly details. So we have the rule number 28, which has a redundancy error, and there's another rule which shows a shadow anomaly. And then we have a rule reorder suggestion. And if there are any rule that can be repositioned for performance improvement, that will be mentioned here. Then we have overly permissive rule info. If you have any overly permissive rule, that will be analyzed and will be listed here. And then we have security threat details. This will provide a list of service level security threats or application level security threats, and it will also give you interface level threats. So following that, you will also get a list of blacklisted IPs. So if you have mistakenly used any of the blacklisted IP that has already been given to Firewall Analyzer, those will be listed here. Then we have the risky port info, which gives us a risk assessment for service level ports, application level ports, and interface level ports. So you can see a whole long list of these ports. So if you scroll down, yes. So we can also see interface level port risk assessment. And then finally, you get a list of object repetitiveness with respect to both service objects, source objects, and other rules. So these are based on rules. And here you have for source objects, and then we'll have for service objects. So this is pretty much about rule impact analysis. So next feature we have right here is the rule administration feature. So using this feature, you have the capability to add, modify, and delete network service objects or firewall rules directly on your firewall device. So earlier, we only used to give reports, but now we can also perform admin level functions, making these changes ourselves. So in addition to that, we can also analyze the implications of the change and push these changes directly to our firewall device. So let me demonstrate this feature in the product UI. So for this, under rule management, we go to administration. Yes. So where you have to choose a firewall device, or let me go with Palo Alto for this. Yes, so we have a firewall device chosen. And now you'll see 3 tabs. So the network objects tab, the service objects tab, and the security rules tab. Under all 3 tabs, you will see 2 common options. One is the local rules and the other one is the firewall rules. In case of objects, it is local objects and firewall objects. So local objects, they just represent the changes you want to make in a specific firewall device. So this will let you add, delete, or modify network objects, service objects, or security rules. So let me show you an example. Let me add a new one here. So I'll choose a CLI protocol and I'll give this as free training 3. Choose a member, like I'll choose test admin. And I'll click on add. So as you can see, the change doesn't get directly pushed to your firewall, but it will be immediately reflected in the local object section. And before proceeding, we will have multiple layers of security that will prevent unauthorized changes. So once you have populated the local object section, the next step is to push it to the review and push section. So you can so we'll click on all. Yes. So you can see it has been already listed in the review and push section. So you just have to check this and you will have to push them. Here again, we have an additional layer of authorization to give using your credentials. So once these are done, once you give your login name and the password and validate, once the validation is successful, these changes will go directly to the commit tab for the final review. So in the commit window, after validation, these changes will get pushed to your firewall device. And the same is recorded in the commit audit tab for future reference. But in case, in the last minute, before committing to the changes, if you decide to revert the change, you can also do that. So in the commit tab, you also have an option called revert. So using this option, you can completely revert the change. So now that we have spoke about these features, we'll also discuss about the rule approval feature. So you can see it here. It is a super admin level feature that allows the super admin to approve or deny any change request that is made by firewall admins. So you can see the pending request, approved request, and rejected request. So I'm not able to see any of them because I just have the admin level access to this build. So let me take you to our free online demo setup. So this is our free online demo setup where you can try most of the features by yourself. You need not register. You just have to go to demo.fwanalyzer.com and you can give Firewall Analyzer a try. So for this, we'll again go to rule management under administration. Yes, it has been logged off. So what is the new thing in the rule approval feature for a super admin is that you can see a dashboard. So again, we'll go to administration. We will choose a firewall. So for this, I'm going with FortiGate. So under rule approval, yes, here you can see an option called dashboard. So this will be visible only to the super admins. So the dashboard gives you an overview of the pending, approved, and rejected requests with different visual formats for easier understanding. So you can also download this in various formats. So that is about the rule approval feature. Now let's go back to the presentation. So we will take a look at the rule comparison feature. So this feature will allow Jim to easily pinpoint changes that were made to the rule configuration by comparing configuration files between any two versions, whether they are a running file or an offline file. So this feature will help identify changes that are made to the firewall rules across various configuration versions. So let me show you how this will work. So we'll go to comparison tab. Yes. So here you can see all the recent rule changes. For example, any rule changes that was made in the last 7 days in this case, but you can also customize the time frame. So you will get multiple graphs for easier understanding. So you can see the recent changes, user specific change, rule change trend, and a rule change report. So now to compare configuration files, select compare policies and choose whether you have to compare between two offline files or a offline file and the latest running configuration or between two running configuration versions. So for demonstration, I will choose FortiGate and I'll choose between two running configurations. So here, again, FortiGate and one, let me go to 22 and you click on compare. So as you can see, the comparisons are highlighted by color. So it is based on yellow is for modification, red is for deletions, and green are for new additions. You can also download this in multiple formats and send via mail using the action button here. And you also see a diff only option here. So what does this mean is, so diff only option helps you filter the rules that had changes. But if you have to see all the rules, just unclick that option. So that is how you compare policies. So moving on, the next feature that we're going to look at is the rule expiry notification feature. So this will help security admins track the status of firewall rules and get notified on which rules have expired. So let's see this in the working. So let me go to expiry notification and change this to checkpoint. So it has all the tabs which has the schedules, active rules, upcoming rules, expired rules, and recurring rules. So all of this can be emailed to you or downloaded in a report format as per your requirement. So this feature will help Jim track the status of all the firewall rules. In addition to expiry notification, there is one more feature that we have launched from version 12.7, that is the risk analysis feature. So if you want to experience the risk analysis feature, I recommend you to upgrade your setups to 12.7 and above. So what this feature does is it will simplify and prioritize and will help you manage all your existing rule sets. So this is the UI. In the summary tab, you can get an overall information about your firewall's risky rules, and it will be categorized based on the severity, like critical, high, medium, low, and needs attention. So we have seen two types of reports. One was the impact analysis report. The other one now here is the risk analysis report. So this is the live risk analysis report. So what is the difference between both the report is that an impact report will let you understand how a new rule is going to impact your existing rule set. But a risk analysis report will analyze the existing rules in your firewall and will identify any risky or poorly configured rules that are currently running in your security setup. So these rules can be listed in two ways. So one is the show by rule method, which you're currently seeing, and the next one is the show by risk. So this will display the risk section containing any risky rules. So if you think any rule is harmless and you need it to be excluded, you can always click on the rule and mark it as false positive. So once you've marked it as false positive, it will be included in the excluded rules list. And this will not be considered for the future analysis of risk analysis report. So now that Jim has concluded his first use case, we will go back to the presentation and we'll see the second use case. So this use case starts with monitoring the changes made to Jim's firewall configuration. So the challenges were there were no previous records. He was not able to track changes. There were no alerts or backups. Now with Firewall Analyzer in place, they want Jim to analyze, track, and record all changes made to the firewall configurations and also download these changes in a report format. So Firewall Analyzer's change management report and configuration backup section can help Jim solve this issue. So as we already mentioned, changes made to the firewall configurations by security admins before Jim went unnoticed. But with Firewall Analyzer, that is not the case. Say, for example, if there was a security admin before Jim, let's name him as James, made a change to the firewall device, then the change is automatically recorded in Firewall Analyzer. So Firewall Analyzer does not just track who made the change, but it also tracks when it was made and what was changed. To show this in the working, let me take you to the UI. So here under compliance, we go to change management. So you will see a newly added dashboard. So for this, let me go to checkpoint firewall and let me choose the last 30 days. Yes. So here you will see a newly added dashboard, which is displaying all the configuration changes made within a specified time period. That is, in our case, it is last 30 days. It also allows you to view all the rule changes made for a specific firewall. Every change is listed here with details like configuration change count, version number, who made the change, and more. So you can click on a change to view more details and compare configurations to see differences between changes. And if you need, like every other report, you can also download this report as a PDF or have it sent it to you through mail. So now that we have looked at change management, so the next one here is configuration backup. So with this feature, Jim's team can easily schedule automated configuration backups. So just in case, if any unsupervised modifications are made, either due to an attack or a disaster, they can revert the changes using the backup option. So let me show this to you in the UI. So here under compliance, we go to configuration backup. So here you can see all the schedules. So to add a new schedule, we'll just have to click on add backup schedule, give the schedule a name, choose the firewall device, and you can schedule it based on your needs. So you can have the backup sent to you for your email, or if you would want to download the configuration files when you need them, you can always download them from the backup audit tab. And then we have a comparison option. So this comparison option will help you compare two backups using the comparison feature. So here, let me show you an example of FortiGate, and I would want to compare by configuration. And let me go to 16.1, and Let me compare it with the latest configuration and hit compare. So now we can see there were no changes between these configurations, but if there were to be any changes, you can see the changes listed here, and they will be color coded like you saw in the previous report. If there has been any additions, it will be in green color, modifications will be in yellow, and the deletions will be in red. So you will have a detailed view of those comparisons. Let me try it with another version. Let's see if we can get some data here. All right, so this is how the comparison feature works. So now that Jim can analyze, track, and record all changes that was made to the firewall configuration. And he can also download all of these changes in a report format. That is the end of the second use case. Moving on to the third use case. So Jim's company needs to be compliant with multiple security standards, but they're failing short on several security standards, which has caused them to lose customers. So now Jim has been assigned the task of submitting a detailed compliance and security audit report. So let's look at how Jim uses compliance and security audit section of Firewall Analyzer to address this. So this standards and compliance management feature of Firewall Analyzer provides out-of-the-box compliance standards for multiple regulations. So this will help you assess your firewall security. It will help you continuously to monitor how your firewall rules are changing. It will help you report instantly in case if there were any misconfigurations. And it can also meet multiple compliance requirements like the GDPR, NIST, ISO, PCI DSS. So to show this in the working, let me take you back to the product UI. So under the same compliance, we are going to go to standards. And we are going to choose, let's go with checkpoint firewall. So Firewall Analyzer will automatically generate these reports if you have sufficient data for each of the firewall, and there'll be no any extra charges that will be incurred for this. So let's say, for example, Jim's company is a financial company and they need to comply with PCI DSS. So Firewall Analyzer will display the compliance status. For example, in this case, Jim's company is 41% compliant for PCI DSS standards. And then when you click on view mode, it will split the report into pass, fail, and need manual verification sections. You can also filter out each section for your convenience. And the ones that are marked as stars are those need manual verifications. So this tool also provides detailed recommendations. So if you scroll down, you can also see a recommendation section. So it will give you detailed recommendation on how to address the failed compliance areas. And for easy navigation, the same report, you can just switch tabs to see how that particular firewall is compliant with other industry standards. And you will have all of these reports in the similar format. This will make it easier for Jim to correct the failed compliance and for his organization to increase its compliance percentage. So now let's go back to the presentation. Now let's look at security audit reports. So Firewall Analyzer security audit report helps identify configuration loopholes in your firewalls. So this will list events based on criticality, again like critical, high, medium, low, or based on information. It provides detailed findings, the impact on the network, and suggests recommendations to prevent security incidents. So let me take you back to the product UI. So here under security audit, You can see this for a particular firewall. Here it is checkpoint. Let me go to FortiGate again. So under the summary section, you can find a stat of all the issues and their counts. So as of now, we have 0 critical issues, 5 high rated issues, and a few medium, low, and information related issues for this particular firewall. So let's look at a high rated issue. So you can see, yes, the issue rating has been mentioned here. So this one is a high rating issue. Here you have a general analysis of what this particular issue is about, and you can see the affected rule, which is the reason why this has been categorized as a highly rated issue. You can also see the repercussions of this issue and suggestions that Firewall Analyzer is giving that you can implement to mitigate this issue. And like any other report, you can also download this in multiple formats. Like you can download it as an PDF, or you can have it sent it to you via mail. With this, Jim can finish his third task of submitting a detailed compliance and security audit report. So now I think you all will have a better idea of what Firewall Analyzer is capable of, and there is more coming up in the next session on October 24th. So to summarize the session, Firewall Analyzer is a policy and configuration management tool. It helps identify policy anomalies, unused rules, and objects, and it also lets you perform in-depth impact analysis and helps push policy changes directly to your firewall. Thus, it plays a critical role in optimizing firewall performance. In addition, you also get out-of-the-box compliance reports for standards like PCI DSS, NIST, ISO, GDPR, and more. Firewall Analyzer also helps you monitor your configuration changes and schedule configuration backups. Finally, it supports all major firewall vendors. In the next session, you can see the basic installation requirements. Firewall Analyzer can be installed on a Windows or a Linux system, and all the syslogs that are received by Firewall Analyzer are stored in the PGSQL database by default. However, you can also configure them to be stored in your MS SQL database. So the disk space and the RAM mentioned in this slide are the minimum requirements, and they may vary depending on the number of devices that is being analyzed and the number of devices those are sending log information. And the next one, you can see the prerequisite ports that needs to be free and the respective protocols that will be used. So we have SSH or SEP on port 22, TFTP on port 69, Telnet on port 23, and port 1514, which acts as the default listener port where you will forward all your syslogs for Firewall Analyzer to generate syslog-based reports. Then we have our technology partnerships with Checkpoint, Palo Alto, and WatchGuard, and we are actively working towards expanding this section. For now, we support more than 50 firewall vendors and over 200 devices, and this list is constantly expanding. If you are using a firewall device which is not on the list, you can check the vendors and devices we support on our online web pages. If you're having difficulty finding them, please don't worry, we'll be sharing that information through email after this session. So now let's look at the firewall rule management report that has been supported for this given list of firewalls. So this feature list is also available on our website. If you are curious, you can always take a look. And if you want us to send them through email, let us know in the Q&A session, and we will customize an email with the list of supported vendors and we'll send it to you immediately. So next on this slide, you have the basic information on how to contact us. You can reach us through email at FW Analyzer -support at ManageEngine.com, or if you wish to talk to us, you can call the number shown on the screen. In addition to these two contacts, we also have a forum where network admins and security admins discuss their issues and our technicians answer them. So this is called Pitstop, and it's available at pitstop.manageengine.com. It's common for all ManageEngine products, and under the Firewall Analyzer section, you can see the discussion that are particular to firewall monitoring and management happening. Finally, we also have an exhaustive help documentation on our website. If there's a feature you want to know more about or want to understand in detail, you can always look us at help/index.html under Firewall Analyzer. If you still have any question, this is a gentle reminder to type your questions in the Q&A session, and we'll have them answered right away by our panelists. We'll also be sharing this presentation post-session with all of you, so you all have this information in your email. And then we just want to let you know we are listed on G2, and if you are an evaluator or an existing customer who just tuned into this session to see the new features released in Firewall Analyzer, I'd request you to share your feedback about the product on G2. And as a token of thank you for your time and effort, we will be giving you a $25 gift card. In addition to all of these, we have a couple of ebooks. One of our best ebooks that has benefited many admins globally is the Firewall Best Practices ebook. It is available on our website free of charge, and you can download it from firewall/ebooks.html. I'll also include a link to download all of these ebooks in the email post this session. So next is an important disclaimer regarding security. With respect to customer data and data protection, ManageEngine assures you that we take customer security and data privacy very seriously. We make sure that all customer data stays protected at all costs. So that is pretty much the presentation. Now that we are coming to the end of the presentation, here is a quick sneak peek into our next session on October 24th. In that session, we'll discuss about alarm management, network security and traffic reports, VPN monitoring, user monitoring, and forensic log analysis. If you want to have detailed insights about VPN management or other features, or even collect relevant collaterals, don't forget to join our next session, which is scheduled on October 24th, which is the next Thursday. So thank you so much for all of you to joining us today. I hope this training was helpful and that you learned something new. I really hope you were all able to clarify your doubts. But even now, it's not too late. So if you have any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A box. Once again, thank you everyone for joining, and we will be closing this webinar for now. I really hope we could see all of you for the next session on October 24th. Thank you so much.